Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. This is Making Tracks. Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Dave Tree.
That's not true. That's impossible.
You're listening to Making Tracks. I'm your co-host Mark Newbold, and joining me today is he's a superstar in my world and a megastar throughout the rest of the galaxy. But I'm going to let him introduce himself because I think he deserves it.
You can't be talking about me, surely.
I was taking a swig of water then. Fresh water. Yes, I am talking about you, Dave. I've said your name now. Do the introduction. It's too good to miss.
Oh, hi everyone. It's Dave Tree from the deepest, darkest, wettest depths of the New Forest right now. It's been the week of rain. This is June. This time last year, it was screaming hot. It was crazy. And this has to be the coldest June. I'm wearing shorts. I don't know why I'm wearing shorts. Should I be wearing shorts, Mark?
That's a fashion question. I'm not the fashion person. Claire's the fashion person. Wherever you go, it is always damp and moist. It doesn't matter if it's raining or whether it's not. That's just my personal opinion. So you're getting a lot of rain down in the New Forest, yeah?
Yes. To be fair, the whole month has been pretty much like this. This morning it started off really bright and sunny, and I thought, fantastic. Yeah. And now, for the last 2-3 hours, it's just been continuous rain here, and it's been just naff, really. I need a holiday. I need to get away somewhere nice, hot and sunny, nice little sandy beach maybe that I can sit down and drink away the day.
Yes.
Everything else. I don't know
whatever
where
else has got.
Oh dear. So what's new, Mark? Come on.
What's new? I can tell you right now that on my left arm I've got a bit of sticky tape and some cotton wool because I had a blood test this morning. And then I went to see the new Men in Black film, which was decidedly average, sadly. I was really expecting great things. It was okay. And now I'm talking to you. So things really, honestly, could be better, but not much. So yeah,
well, because you're talking to me now.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much up there on my Kilimanjaro of awesomeness. Talking to you, Dave. We don't do it enough. We definitely don't do it enough. Well, we're gonna try and do it more. We keep saying this. We're going to be more regular, more consistent.
We're going to try and do it more.
We're going to have to take some sort of Senecot or something to make sure we do it every 2 weeks.
What's with you today?
I don't know. There's something in this water.
Literally, what is with you?
There's something in the water. I don't know what it is. But I'll tell you what is with me. What is with me, apart from the Force, because obviously the Force is definitely with all of us, is that we're going to talk about ComicCon at Film New Forest, which was an event that we were all involved with a couple of weeks ago, which was awesome, and we'll talk a bit about that. And we're also going to talk about Galaxy's Edge, because since the last episode, Galaxy's Edge has opened.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, Star Wars fan, Fantha Tracks fan.
So, how pleased were you with the first running of Comic-Con at Film New Forest? Because from what I saw, it all went really rather swimmingly and it was great fun.
Well, that was largely down to the expert help of Fantha Tracks as a whole at the event. For those that weren't familiar with what we're talking about, I got approached to run an event as part of the New Forest Film Festival, which is a new initiative by New Forest District Council to celebrate all things that have been filmed and everything connected to filming in the New Forest. So the Star Wars connection there is Solo. The start of Solo was filmed at Fawley, so Corellia was filmed at Fawley Oil Refinery, which is on the edge of the New Forest, onto the Solent. But also other productions that have been taking place over the last few years have been like Mission Impossible and 24. My favourite one is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which was under an embargo for however many years because they literally did not want it out there that it wasn't Nottingham Forest.
Really?
It was new. Yeah, it was under like a Secrets Act thing, which I never knew anything about. I didn't even realise it was filmed down here. We hosted an event to kick off the film festival week, and we did a little Comic-Con, and Fantha Tracks were hosting the Q&A panel room. And as part of this as well, we had an absolute stacked, crazy ensemble of guests. We had Lee Towersley and Tim Berry, who are respectively the creature effects guys on the new Disney films. Lee's like one of the droid operators and is the operator for R2. Tim is like one of the creature effects, does all the animatronics. We then had a phenomenal bunch of new, never before, first ever signings. We had a team of a team of 4 friends that were all on The Last Jedi together. And what was really nice is that they were, they're all like either family or friends and things like that. You had Matthew Downs, who we've previously interviewed before, who was a Resistance pilot. You had Danny Barker, he was a Resistance trooper. You had Vincent, he was like a ground technician. And then you had his partner Emma, who was a logistics controller. And they absolutely had a ball. They really enjoyed it. Ross Beedman, who was from the Revenge of the Sith, and again, first ever signing, even though Revenge of the Sith was like 15 years ago, but he was like the little Jedi youngling that went up to Anakin going, Master Skywalker, there's too many of them, what are we going to do? And then, like sliced off. And so it's incredible to think that like this guy has been off the radar for the last 15 years. And it's one of those things that is like, oh wow, that's really quite cool because it's a memorable moment and it's got a line and it's like that kind of point where Anakin's kind of gone too far and things like this. Yeah. And the kid in the scene has been subject to 1,000 memes on the internet and stuff like that. And then when he then turns up, he's actually still a kid. He's only like sort of 20 or so. Yeah. And you like think, well, yeah, of course that makes sense. But like you think, oh yeah, they must have aged like loads by then. It's like, no, not really. And it's like he's still like, he's at university and studying and everything like that. Yeah. But he was brilliant for what is his first event. That was really, really quite nice. And he also is an ex-student of Brockenhurst College as well, as am I, which was where the venue was held. So it was again a second Star Wars tie-in where you had Solo's first one. Geographically speaking, was only about sort of like probably less than 10 miles away from where we were. Yeah. So Ross Beedman as a former student of Brockenhurst College. And then another one who couldn't make it, but is also a former student, is Guy Henry, who played Tarkin in Rogue One. So even though we're out in the middle of nowhere, there's quite a lot of weird, bizarre sort of like Star Wars connections going on for the New Forest. So if we can kind of get more of the filming down here, not that I'd ever probably get accepted to be on a Star Wars film, but I could always be in the background, like looking over a fence or something like that.
Looking over a fence.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
as opposed to causing offence, that will be.
Well, there's that as well. There's, that's very true. It was really great, and like I said, Fantha Tracks were there in full force. So you had Richard running the actual Fantha Tracks booth where we were doing all the games and things like that, and he did a sterling job. You had the extended events team that were helping out. There was yourself, Mark, Martin, and Brian. Brian came all the way over from Saudi Arabia.
He literally did.
Show. Oh, what's the matter with him? But, have the infinite possibilities of what you could be doing on your Saturday. He chose to do that. So, like, thank you very much, Brian. It was a really, really, really good day. So it was very nice. It was very exhausting. But at least the food was good.
The food was fantastic. The whole thing was ace. I had a great time. Martin was filming it for Fantha Tracks TV, so some of the stuff is already out on Fantha Tracks TV and also coming out in special episodes of Making Tracks, so some of the audio is already out there. But yeah, no, I had a ball. It was nice. It was a proper, you'd got your all the cool stuff banner set up. You got the little sofa there and chairs and everything else. It really was cool, and the audience were great. They got involved. I'd throw questions out to the audience, and there was always good questions coming from the audience, along with the guys that you mentioned, the Star Wars guys. I mean, we had Chris Rankin and James Phelps, who worked on the Potter films.
Did I mention to you that James was actually the snow technician?
You did. And
The Force Awakens.
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you.
Starkiller Base.
I'm going to tell you a terrible thing now, and this is embarrassing, but I'm going to say it anyway. You told me that it was James. You told me. You said, ask James about Star Wars. And in my youthful excitement, I got mixed up and I asked Chris, I understand you worked on Star Wars. And he went, no. Who told you that? I went, oh, sorry. By the time I realised it was James, he'd gone. So I missed out on one there. So I'll have to get him at a later point. Classic.
I'll get him on to talk about it. But no, I thought he was the snow technician for Starkiller Base, and I thought that's kind of like awesome. Different. Yeah. I like finding out about the sort of the bit behind and all of that.
Well, it sounds like he has a fascinating career because he does a lot of sort of standing work and double work and that, doesn't he? You know.
Yeah.
So he's working on the new Potter films with David Yates, who of course he worked with, you know, when he played Neville's dad. So there's all these cool little connections. So that'll be out soon as well. I know it's not all Star Wars. I think it's of interest to Star Wars fans because it gives you an insight into the movie world. So there's some good stuff.
Definitely.
And the other two guests was Janet and Haywood Ho, who both do standing work and extras work and stunt work and absolute nutters in the nicest possible way. Janet came on in a sash, I can't remember what it was, Miss something or other. She's doing some charity work.
Miss Diamond Dorset, yeah.
That was it, well done, that was it. And she was such great value, and Haywood can talk for England, and they just talk, so it was the easiest interview to do. Fascinating. They both worked on like Age of Ultron, Doctor Strange, both very proud of working on Doctor Strange, clearly. And of course there's loads of Star Wars connections there with Mads Mikkelsen, ILM and all that stuff. So it was great fun. For me it was easy, not remotely like work, it was just absolute fun. I really enjoyed it.
Fantha Tracks.
I had the chance to sit down, literally, you'll hear, sit down with Martin Keeler to talk about Galaxy's Edge, because Martin is our Fantha Tracks Galaxy's Edge expert. So here's part one of my chat with Martin, talking all about the park, the expectations, and what we will be seeing when we get in there. So I'm currently sitting cross-legged on the floor, Martin Keeler's Den of Iniquities, or Antiquities, I should say. Iniquities sounds even better. And we're going to talk about Galaxy's Edge. I think you might know a few things about this. Martin, hello.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm very good. Bad back, but I'm getting over it. It's all good. Galaxy's Edge. So we had the big grand opening very recently. It looks amazing. First thoughts, from what you've seen, and obviously we've seen a lot of stuff externally from folks that were over there at the media thing, and loads on YouTube, and internet's just swamped with news now and pictures. And you've been following it, obviously, you've been following the progress of it, so you're fairly well versed on what's in the park and what's going on, but actually seeing it is a different thing. So what are your first impressions from what you've seen of Galaxy's Edge?
So, yeah, like you say, I've been studying it because I love all things Disney and I love all things Star Wars, so you put the two together and it's awesome. But yeah, so my view on this for everyone who's listening is I haven't been, which I think is quite a good angle to record at this time. Because I'm in that weird place of I did all the research prior to opening. So I had all this, I wonder if this is going to be like this, it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing it through other people's eyes with the blogging and all that kind of. And there's two phases of that, which I'm sure we'll talk about. There's people who have had the media experience, and now there's the people who are having the public experience, although restricted.
Yes.
So I think it's interesting watching how it plays out. And then I go myself in August when it will be fully open. So it kind of feels like there's the three ages, and we've gone through the first age, which was pre. This is it's opened, let's check it all works bit. And I think it looks absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
I don't think watching it online will convey what it feels like to be there.
Yes.
I think that's a consistent message I've seen with people. I don't know how that plays out in my mind, because I watch them sometimes and think they're being very dramatic, but because we know some of the people and we know they're not dramatic, it makes you think, something weird's about the feel there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far it looks like they're delivering on most of what they promised, although I think the initial concept was hugely ambitious. Mostly they're hitting it. I think the immersive bit will be the bit that everyone discusses as time goes on.
I was going to say, that was the one word that very early on kind of raised a flag, because there's logical, practical reasons why it can't be fully immersive, but they, like you say, they seem to have backed away from that immersive word a little bit, don't they?
And there's different levels of fandom for immersive. So immersive to people who aren't into Star Wars will be Chewbacca roaring at them.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh my goodness, it's Chewbacca, that's fully immersive, because he's walking around in Star Wars land.
Yeah.
To people like us, getting the date wrong on when something happened will feel like it's blown the whole experience, where if we're being realistic, it really hasn't.
No, not at all.
But so I think you've got to look at the fan base that you're basing the immersive experience on.
Yes.
We will pick holes in things because we want it to be absolutely pure Star Wars. Couldn't possibly be anything other than that.
And we're the 1%, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're that 1% that picks up on that stuff.
And the argument I'll give is, if you want it to be fully immersive, then you might not get out alive.
True.
Right?
True.
So I'm not sure they're going to go to that level.
Yeah.
If you stand up and say I'm part of the resistance, theoretically, if it's fully immersive,
they're going to shoot you.
They're going to shoot you.
Yeah.
So
they're not making Jurassic World
no
immersive, are they?
Exactly. So I think if you're hardcore fans like that, you kind of got to cut it a bit of slack.
Yeah, of course you do.
But I will also flip it. We went to Secret Cinema.
Yeah.
If it's half as immersive as that was, they've done well.
Yes.
And my perception is, because you're a Disney park, you've got to, and again, it's something we'll talk about in this interview, I think people have got to realise it's predominantly a Disney park.
Yes.
It's not
a Star Wars park.
It's not Star Wars set. It's not Star Wars theme park.
Yeah.
It's a land in Disney.
Yeah.
The bulk of the people going through there are holiday makers.
Yeah.
Who are interested about Star Wars.
Yes.
But we're not seeing that at the moment. At the moment, we're seeing the Star Wars hardcore who have made the effort.
Yeah.
They've got their reservations. So again, it's an interesting dynamic to see it through.
Yeah. So of the things that you've seen so far, what has jumped out initially as being pretty much on point to what you expected it to be?
Right. I think the lightsaber building looks really, really good.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it looks better than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
I've done the Harry Potter wand making stuff.
Right, yeah.
That was cool. This looks like next level on that. And I quite like the fact it's a proper community thing. So I think there's 12 of you in the room, 12 or 14 building. So you kind of all build at the same time, and that must feel quite good, and the atmosphere in it feels right, and the cast members look amazing.
Say, the one video that I watched, the fella that was leading it, referring to everyone as builders.
Yep.
I thought that was a neat little touch.
Yeah.
Like you pointed out as we were watching the video, you know, the music changing when he lifts the green crystal, when he lifts the blue crystal, the music slightly alters. There's just a timing, a really cool timing to the whole process.
Yeah. And we put a link, I'm sure. To here. So the Skywalking Through Neverland guys, Richard and Sarah, part of Fantha Tracks, I think, in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
They've done a good video on that. You can watch the whole thing. It doesn't spoil anything either, I think. No. So I think you can watch... Yeah, people have different expectations, but I kind of like to know what's going on before I go into these things, so I can get the best out of it. But
being in the park, actually, there's an atmosphere that you can't duplicate or replicate on video.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think you said when we watched the video that's just prior to this, you weren't contemplating spending $200 on a saber, and now you can't imagine not spending $200 on a saber there.
Absolutely. I watched it. I watched the video as we went through the little list of videos, thinking, it sounds like a cool idea, but not for me. Because you know me, I like all the little fiddly farty stuff. I like picking up the pins and the little... You know, if they start doing Sabat credits and chips and coins, that's the sort of thing I'm going to gravitate towards. And then I watched that video, the Skywalking video, when they're putting that thing together. And especially at the end when you lock the saber in, lock the hilt, activate your blade and lift the blade. And it's like, I kind of want to do that now.
Yeah, that's it.
In my head I'm thinking, I kind of know what saber I want to build as well. Yeah. So it's got me thinking, so yeah.
And they don't look like cheap sabers. And that's really good. I'm really pleased about that, because they could have sold the experience and...
Oh, yeah.
And then given you a really rubbish look. Yeah. But no, these look like... You'd almost contemplating buying one for the price anyway. Yeah. Probably top end, but
sure.
But then getting the experience as well
of building it yourself and it being individual to you.
Yeah. And for the likes of us in the UK, you know, if you can afford to go to Disneyland, you can probably afford the extra $200.
Sure. Yeah, very true. Yeah. A couple of the other things that we saw, the droid building area.
Yeah. So we watched a couple of videos again. We've rehearsed for this. This is quite technical for us. Yeah. The droid point. It looks like a great concept. It sounds like they've underestimated the demand for it. It looked quite chaotic in there. Now they've got people in, and bear in mind they're restricting the number of people in. So
that was the point, wasn't it? The fact that it's a restricted number at the moment until middle of June, end of June. But still, the demand
outstripped supply,
because it's such one of those tactile. Yeah. Lift the arms, lift the head, put the body together, the whole thing. That looked great.
Well, and they know, because even when it was like little plastic figures that you can still do in Launch Bay, you know, they're popular.
Very.
So imagine you've taken it to the next level, you've got a build experience. And again, that's why I really like what they've done in Galaxy's Edge, because it does look and feel like you're taking part in something that happens in Star Wars.
Yes.
So it does feel like when you see it on the screen, you've got the conveyor belt with all the bits on.
I love the conveyor belt.
I love that stuff. I love the fact that you don't have to go to a station and build it, and you've got the power screwdriver to put it together.
Right. It's like a sushi bar, isn't it? All the stuff coming past,
And then the droid itself is activated. It's not just you've built it and you go and pay for it. Yeah. And interesting, I couldn't see anywhere in there that you pay for it. So they seem to be quite cunning about how they get your money without it being transactional during the experience. Yeah. But equally, like I say, it looks like they've underestimated demand, which is something I heard fairly consistently in the build-up, that a lot of these areas are a little bit too small
Well, there's a question, because it's 14.1 acres in Anaheim and, of course, Orlando as well, and eventually Paris will get a smaller one. But do you think that when they put it on paper and they start blocking it out and they think, well, we've got to spend space, if that makes sense, we've got to give the space to making it as fully immersive visually as possible.
Yeah.
But by the same token, the footfall is going to be insane, especially in the early days. Do you think they underestimated the amount of people that are going to want to spend $100 on a droid, $200 on a lightsaber?
Well, I think underestimated. I know I used that word last time. It's probably the wrong word. You can't make a park big enough at the moment.
No.
That's the reality. Yeah. No matter how many people you cater for, there'll be more.
Yeah.
So I guess there's a longer term thing, like in 15 years' time, what will the footfall be like? Which is what you should be looking like as a business. Yeah. And then managing the expectations first up. I just think Olga's Cantina is something else we're talking about at the moment. Those seem to be very small for what at the moment are the headlines, because you've only got one ride, you've only got Smuggler's Run.
Yeah.
So basically it's all these experiences that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
When it's a free-for-all, how many people are... Well, first of all, they're predicting... They've already put a system in place for when the land is full up.
Yeah.
So... I'm assuming, and I hope I'm assuming wrong, because I love the idea of them restricting the 4 hours thing.
Yeah.
I thought I'd hate it, and I like the opposite, because it sounds like you can get enough time to do everything, and then you're out.
Yeah. Because it's not like there's not plenty of other things to see.
Exactly, and that means a rotation system kind of feels fair.
Yeah.
When it goes live at the end of June, it doesn't sound like to me that you'll be forced to leave.
Yeah.
Which means you're going to have the problem of people constantly coming in until it's full.
Yeah.
Then I think you have to basically have a passport to allow yourself in.
Yeah.
But they're only going to let people in when people have left.
It's like the full car park, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that effectively says to me that Galaxy's Edge will be at capacity.
Yeah, pretty much all the time.
And it's looking busy in the shops now. The land itself looks good.
Yeah.
But the actual experiences look oversubscribed already.
Yeah.
I know if you don't go straight to Olga's Cantina, you won't get in. You have to reserve slots there, and you're only allowed in for 45 minutes.
These are all slots you can do on the app, though, aren't they?
I don't know at the moment. I've read mixed things. Whether you'll be able to do it in the app when it goes live, I don't know. Although the app predominantly, I think, is about interacting with the park.
Yeah.
At the moment, what they're saying is you go to Olga's Cantina, you reserve your slot, and you pay for it, and then you're told to come back at a later time.
Which is fine.
But again, that's for a 4-hour thing. Yeah. So whether they'll do the first thing in the morning, they fill up the whole day... But again, that's an issue, isn't it? Imagine you rack up into Disney, you finally get in at 12 o'clock. We ain't going to get into Olga's Cantina if everyone's been booking through the day.
So you think that 4-hour slot is a logical thing? Because it doesn't mean you go to Disney for 2 weeks, it doesn't mean you're only going to spend 4 hours at Galaxy. Yeah. It's just 4 hours a day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Theoretically, you could do it every day.
Absolutely. I think that's a good idea from a experience viewpoint.
Yeah.
I could easily put an argument forward saying, let them all in, people are spending money...
Yeah. And that's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line. Yeah. It's kind of a no-lose for Disney. But again, I'll let them worry about that, not me, because that's what their jobs are. But it's clear to me that they're basically doing an open park. It's a soft opening.
Yeah. They're not promoting it as that, but it is, isn't it?
But it is.
Yeah.
But it's a good idea. Yeah. It's a good idea. But we'll see how that pans out.
Fantha Tracks Network.
Going back to Star Wars Fan Fun Day, I had a chat with quite a few people. We mooched around the room and stuck our microphones in people's faces. And one of the people that I stuck my microphone in front of, but very carefully because he's bigger than me, was Arie Dekker. Arie was stunt Chewbacca in Solo: A Star Wars Story. So a lot of the heavy lifting and stunty sort of stuff that you saw in that film, that was Arie doing it. So here's me having a quick catch up with Arie at Star Wars Fan Fun Day. So I'm here at Star Wars Fan Fun Day. What day is it? It's Monday, isn't it?
Monday, yes.
And it's just stopped raining, thank goodness. And it's not boiling hot like it was last year, which is much nicer. I'm here with Arie. Arie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well.
Good.
I've managed to kneel down. Whether I get back up again is another thing. Are you enjoying your day? Because it's been busy and there's been loads of kids around. It's been a fun-packed day.
Fantastic day. It's great. These type of events are always the best because it's just great for all the family. You know, everyone can have fun and spend the whole day here. So it's been great.
And it's a good mix, isn't it? Just to get some fans who are like deep dive fans, and then you get little kids who are just
it's great. I mean, like you said, you get the fans that come in and they've got plenty of things for you to sign, and then you get the little kids that just love Chewie. And just want to chat to you about the film and hear about what you've done. So great.
So how many of these kind of shows have you done now?
I haven't done that many. I think this is maybe my 5th or 6th. Done a few of the bigger ones and a few of the smaller ones. So I to be fair, I actually quite like these type of events. They are the better ones.
And last time I saw you was up in Edinburgh.
Yes,
And you were off to Vegas.
I was.
Tell me about Vegas. How did it go?
Oh, Vegas, fantastic. I mean, it was great being over in America and seeing the fans over there. It was a big event. It was great to see. As a fan myself, it's always great to go to these events because I get to meet I got to meet the Transformers, which is great for me, because I'm a big Transformers fan, so that was cool. And it was great going for the first time in Vegas, so try not to lose too much money over there.
Oh, did you?
No comment.
Well played. So, when you're, like I say, it's early days, you're doing these kind of events, but so far, what's the question you get asked the most?
I think the question the most for me is what it's like to be in the suit. Is it hot? And my normal response is it's hot and it can be quite itchy at times. But it's great. I mean, I love being in that suit. I've spent thousands of hours in that suit now.
I was going to say.
Over 2 films and a promotional tour. So Well, it's second nature to me now. I love it.
So when you the process of getting in the suit, here it goes, me asking me about the suit. You see all the yak hair and so on and so forth. What's underneath it? It's obviously woven into something. So is it like a knitted body suit?
So it's all hand woven. It takes hours upon hours. The guys that work on it are absolutely brilliant. It's not once they've actually made the suit, it's not over then because they've got to make sure that they look after the suit. So a lot of work goes into ensuring that obviously the hair's in great condition. It looks the same as it did on the previous shot, etc. I mean, they're fantastic. The team that works on the Neil are superb.
And what, obviously this past week, Peter Mayhew passed away. We've got the hoods going past us right now. Peter Mayhew passed away, and a lot of videos have come out, and one of them was on Force Awakens set. Everyone wanted to give the Wookiee a hug. Is that something you got as well?
Well, I mean, first of all, just about Peter, I mean, that's obviously devastating news, and it's a massive loss to the Star Wars community. I mean, he was such a superb performer, and it's an honour to step into that suit after him. Just such a great performer, and he's just brought so much joy to so many people's lives. He'd be sad if he missed. But I mean, from a hug perspective, people always love to have a Wookiee hug. I don't get many of them because I'm always the one giving them out. But people always want a Wookiee hug.
Now, obviously, we can't talk about 9, but we can talk about Solo. When you were working on that film, for yourself now as a fan, what moment that you were working on really sticks in the mind as something that was really special for you?
So, probably the biggest thing for me that was when I was walking on the Millennium Falcon for the first time, because that's always something that you've watched as a fan time and time again in the movies. And I think I didn't actually walk onto the set, onto the Millennium Falcon, until maybe 2 months in. And I'd worn the Chewbacca suit by then, but walking onto the Millennium Falcon is still the biggest thing that sticks in my memory. It was the 17th of May, I think it was, that I did it. I walked on and seen it all lit up, and I had it to myself. There was no one else there. It was fantastic. We used to have the walk around the corridors into the cockpit, and they extended the set actually for Solo, so you could actually walk into the living quarters. There was a bit of the engine there as well, and it was great.
And did you have a moment? I've got friends who've been on the set, and they said they had a proper moment.
It takes you back. It does take you back, and you start picturing, that's where they filmed that there, and that's where they did that there, and obviously now I've got my own memories of filming Solo on there as well. So and sitting in that cockpit, which is something else, especially with the technology they have these days, because you sit in the cockpit and there's a wraparound screen, so you actually feel you can't see anything other than the screen, so you actually feel like you're going to light speed. Because the stars disappear and start flying past you.
And again, as a fan,
he's seen all these technological advances. That must be fascinating because they never used to do that.
No, they never used. No, I mean they built a whole rig for that, and I think you can see that on some of the behind the scenes stuff. And it's just it is. It's fantastic. Every time you're in it, and you're kind of pinching yourself that you're on Star Wars, and you're making a film that's going to bring so much joy to so many people around the world.
Yeah. And Solo did. It deserved far better than it got.
It's a fun film. It's a fun film, and there's a lot of Easter eggs in there as well. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that I hear off people is there's two groups of people about Solo. There's those that absolutely love it, and then there's those that haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Let's go out there and see it. Go out and watch it. Let's get another one.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not kidding. It so deserves another one.
Yeah, it does.
And obviously, we're not going to ask you anything about 9, but you had a good time doing it. It was an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I had a great time doing 9. Yeah, it was good to get back in the suit and support Jonas and what he does. And that's the main thing. I am there to support Jonas and what he does. And he's had a big job to do to obviously take over from Peter. So I just enjoy working alongside him and making sure that he looks good.
And it's a team effort, isn't it?
It is a team effort, yeah. And I'm under no illusions that I'm his support with it. And he is a great guy, and he does well as Chewbacca. He's a great performer as well.
One final question: what have you got for the rest of the year in terms of events? You got more events coming up, more shows?
I think I've got a few more shows coming up, and maybe a few in the UK. I think there's one in California, might be popping over to in August. So, and then hopefully I've got some film work being announced soon. So it's busy.
And California, you're not far from Vegas, are you?
No, I'm not going back up there. Not yet, not just yet.
Yeah, get the pennies back.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no problem. All right.
This week, there's been 2 bits of news that have come out that I think were of interest that we can talk about for a few minutes. One is that Samuel L. Jackson, and it's not the first time we said it, Samuel L. Jackson would love to come back as Mace Windu. And the second is that Mark Hamill regrets that Han Solo passed away in The Force Awakens, meaning that you never got those original guys together. What do you think about Mace coming back? And also, do you think that Star Wars fans, they missed out a little bit by not having Han, Luke and Leia together just one last time?
With respect to your first question, this is going to sound a little unpopular. Whilst Samuel Jackson is an amazing actor, he's often very, very comical and funny and things like that, and that he's willing to, he's interested should the opportunity ever come up, because he's just putting it out there, and let's face it, they're going to revisit all of these things at some point, that he'd be up for doing more sort of like Mace Windu stuff. The character of Mace Windu is boring as hell, because he's more like admin staff, that he doesn't do anything, right? And then when he did, he then just kind of died and then fell out of a window. Mace Windu as a character, I mean, I'm sure it was explored in the books and the comics and the cartoons and things like that. I mean, it was all right in Clone Wars, but really, as the film version, as in the Samuel L. Jackson that we've seen and what they do on screen, Mace Windu was really underutilized and not all that great. So if you go back to that kind of Jedi Council and how they operated in those prequels, you're going to have to kind of come up with something fairly interesting that either works as a storyline with Mace or has him separated from the rest of them for whatever reason, because maybe it's the Clone Wars and it's the campaign or what have you. But really, if you look at the film version of Mace Windu, he is dull. He is boring. The myth of Samuel Jackson is what makes Mace Windu really cool. All the other things that Samuel Jackson has played and lent his attitude towards to create this whole thing, because there's a little bit of Pulp Fiction and Samuel Jackson in Nick Fury, if you see what I mean, and all those others, but you never had any of that within Mace Windu. The best thing I ever thought he did was when he nearly took off Django's head at the start and said, "This party's over." Yep. It's kind of that was the only kind of thing that was a Samuel L. Jackson look and feel and line to it. But the rest of it was kind of not much, really. And I say this coming off the back of watching The Phantom Menace a couple of weeks ago with you. And it was kind of all they do is they just sit there and debate. They don't really do much. So I'm not too sure about that. And I know that that's probably not what everybody wants, because it would be amazing to have him back. Maybe he's chasing after, maybe he didn't fall out the window. If Maul can survive being chopped in half and then literally making it back onto the movie, spoiler alert, who's to say that Mace couldn't have done the same thing as well?
I totally get what you're saying, and I'm coming from a very similar angle with my thoughts, is that he was, in that first trilogy, in the prequel trilogy, he was pretty staid, because the Jedi were sort of resting on their laurels but didn't know they were resting on their laurels. So, it was very procedural, and then he gets taken out by Anakin and Palpatine, obviously. But I think if he came back, then you would see the embittered, not downtrodden because he survived, but, that harder edge to a character like him. But I don't know where he'd fit in. I don't know where you'd fit him in at any juncture, really. Post-Return of the Jedi, I mean, it's more logical for more Jedi to be around, because it was always the thing that Lucas said, well, really, the only Jedi that are left are Yoda and Ben.
I wouldn't imagine him either going into hiding, if that makes sense, compared to the others, like being tactical about what they've got to do. Obi-Wan's kind of like looking from afar. Yoda's done whatever he needs to do on a boggy planet. It doesn't seem to really work for me, if I'm honest.
Okay, well that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I think they could make it work, but I struggle to think how they would make it work, if that makes any sense. The other question, Hamill regretting the fact that Solo died in Force Awakens. Everyone and their dog will tell you categorically Harrison Ford only returned to The Force Awakens if Han Solo died, and he desperately wanted him to die and return the Jedi. I'm not sure I've ever actually read that. I think that's popular myth, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he thought that it would add gravitas and lend something to the film, but I don't think it was a proviso of him coming back at any point. But that being said, Hamill, I feel, is saying that as Mark, and with Carrie and with Harrison, not Luke, not necessarily just Luke, Leia and Han. The fact that they did those 3 films together, the original 3, and they weren't always together in them. They were, most of Empire, they separated. Jedi, they come together at the end. But do you think that there's something in what he's saying? Do you think it's a shame that Han died so that you could never get to see the 3 of them together, even if it was for one scene, just because it's the big 3? What do you think?
It's a tricky one to call, because do you say that because of what's happened with Carrie, that is then that missed opportunity? But even if Carrie was still around, it still wouldn't have happened with Luke then disappearing in the second film. It's one of those things, if they went on to do the prequel side of things a little bit more, and maybe, like it is a Clone Wars where we're talking about Samuel Jackson, would it be tragic if Ewan wasn't on screen with Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Would you be really that bothered?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But like now there's this on the original trilogy cast, and because one of them has sadly passed away, do you then feel the same about that? I don't know, because the prequels aren't about the original trilogy guys, so arguably do the sequel trilogy have to be about the original trilogy guys? They're there, but like they're not necessarily central to that storyline. The only one up to that point that was central to it was Anakin and Obi-Wan. And then that's it. So you've not had any Anakin in the last 2. So nobody's going on about, well, we had Anakin in the previous 6 films. Why is he not in this one? Nobody's ever kind of like sort of queried or questioned that. And then if you do look at the previous films, Obi-Wan died in Star Wars, but was still there as the Force Ghost in Empire and Jedi. So who's to say that you can't just bend the rules with all of these things anyhow?
Yeah.
And they already brought back Yoda as the Force Ghost in Last Jedi. So the way I see it is nothing is dead cert. Quite often gone back and changed things, retcon things and stuff like that. It's sad from a publicity perspective. I think that's sadder, if you're not getting any kind of like, them all together in that sense. That to me is more heartbreaking than them being on screen together, because it really shows that there's people missing for when they all do get together at these things. And that includes Kenny and Peter as well. It's a clear gap, but in terms of the story side of things, it doesn't really bother me. It would probably bother me more if the stories were really good. Which again is harsh, but like I'm not like the biggest fan of some of this stuff, only from the point of view of I know that there are other things that have been done that have just been phenomenal. And I don't get me wrong, I'm a Star Wars fan through and through, and I pretty much love everything, but like when you look at some of the story and creativity that has been in other areas of Star Wars fandom, it's just been incredible. So I feel that some of what we've got has actually diluted what is an amazing thing. and made some of it a bit mediocre. In the same way that we would have felt with the prequels doing that to the original trilogy. You know, it just feels like it's more dilution of things. And then every now and then you get like a comic series or a book series or a video game series, you know, like Knights of the Old Republic or something like that, you know, that comes out and it's like, oh my word, this is phenomenal. It's really well done. And then it kind of like brings it up again. But like every time it's a big official thing like a film, it kind of waters it down a little bit. So it doesn't bother me in that sense.
Right. I get where Hamill's coming from. I think when he signed up to do these 3 films, he thought he was doing a trilogy, and he knew Harrison was signed up for at least one, and he knew Carrie had signed up for all of them. And I think his expectation would have been, I mean, he turns up for like one scene in Force Awakens. Last Jedi overlaps with Force Awakens, so you know, I think he said, you know, it feels like one film to me. He says, and then I'm dead at the end of it. So, but I don't think he was necessarily going on about the character so much as the fact that I think Mark Hamill, wanted to share the screen one more time with Harrison. You know, it's almost a professional thing. So I understood where he was coming from both angles. I would have loved to have seen them together just that one time. But you see Han and Leia together. You see Leia and Luke together in Last Jedi.
I'll tell you something I'm more bummed about is not seeing Luke more with R2. That to me makes more sense.
Yes.
Because R2's, you know, was deactivated in The Force Awakens. Was his heart broken, you know, because he missed his master or whatever, you know, and like literally they only shared like one scene. You know, that to me makes more sense. It's like having Han without Chewie.
Yeah.
The fact that they were in it together and they had that joking element to what they were doing. But I thought it was more of a missed opportunity that you didn't have Luke with R2 more and interacting more in the way that they did. You know, it was a good moment, but hasn't seemed that fussed that he's got his old best friend back. R2 was a commodity to Luke in The Last Jedi. You know, it wasn't like he gained anything from R2 being back.
Yeah.
It was just that one moment and that was it. It's like, wow.
If only we could all go out and make our own Star Wars films, it would be
That's true.
Cool, wouldn't
That's
it?
true.
Hello, I'm Warwick Davis, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Let's go back to Martin. I had a chat with Martin. We've already spoke a little bit about Galaxy's Edge. Here's part 2 of our chat, all about the awesomeness that is Galaxy's Edge. How do you think then, when they finally get Rise of the Resistance sorted, because I know there's issues, when they get that up and running, how do you think that will impact? Because the Falcon ride, and we'll talk about that. The Falcon ride's long enough from what we've videos we've seen. It's quite a time, more than I thought. But Rise of Resistance is even longer. So how do you think that'll impact?
So theoretically, that will take time out of people's
4 hours.
4 hours, or well, it won't be 4 hours. It'll be open proper then, unless they bring it in.
Yeah.
So there's a logic that says it makes everything else more bearable.
Yeah.
Because effectively, you're adding another attraction that's with no extra footfall coming in.
Yeah.
So it could be a very good thing. Actually, I think the sooner they get that open, the better. I was about to give a counter-argument, but my brain's saying actually there's no counter-argument because they've opened the whole land up.
Yeah.
So they're not saying, oh, we're going to be able to allow another 10,000 people in an hour.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. It's actually going to give people who are there more things to do.
Yeah.
Which will keep, I guess it will keep people in the park longer, but again...
And spending money longer.
And spending money longer.
Yeah.
But it will distribute the crowds better.
Yeah. Now, droid building, we spoke about lightsaber. Yeah. You mentioned Doga's Cantina.
Yeah.
Doc Ondor's Den of Antiquities.
Yes.
It's not, on first view, looking at the room, it's not as big of a room as I thought it might be.
Yeah.
But what's in there looks phenomenal.
It looks amazing.
Easter egg central.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts on that?
I love it. I think, again, I feel this is the room for the big hardcore fans.
The deep divers.
You can just point.
Yeah.
You'll just be pointing at everything, and I'm not going to give away what's in there.
No.
I hope they rotate what's in there as well. That'll be quite cool.
Yeah. I thought that about quite a few of the things as you're walking around the Falcon, and you're walking around the Falcon before you get into the ride. Lots of things on tables and things that you look at. I know Disney quite classically, they don't always shake it up, but sometimes they do, especially sort of Epcot side, there's things they change up.
I think they will on this. I
so.
think there's definitely a passion from what I've read.
Yeah.
They're being very careful with the answers to their interviews that say that there's a fluidity about this. Yeah. They've even gone as far now as saying it might not necessarily take place in the same time zone.
Well, that was a question. Yeah. That's a good point. I was going to come to that. I've seen quite a few people, in fact, Becca Benjamin, one of the Fantha Trackers, sort of put out there, well, are you going to see Padme around the park? Does that mean that it might change era? On the face of it, looking at it from the outside to a a casual observer, all you've got to do is change the dish on the Falcon, and you've stepped it back 30 years plus.
Yep.
So that's an easy thing to do. And Batuu has been there forever. So Galaxy's Edge has been there forever. So no reason for much of that to change. It would be pretty much the same footprint.
Yeah.
Hondo don't really look that much different, and we know he's from the Clone Wars era. So there's certain things that you could easily, if they want to shake it up in 2 years' time or 3 years' time or whatever it might be, it's a thing that could
They can do it. They can do it, and I think they've been very clever with that. They've been very clever with a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there's definitely the scope for them to time jump. But again, how long will they need to do that? Because I think we're looking safely at a few years before anyone starts saying, "Oh, getting bored with that now."
Yeah.
There'll be a few years before most people have said, "Right, I've finally managed to get there."
Well, we said this earlier, didn't we? You know, when you go in August, I'm going December.
Yeah.
That'll be our first times.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go again, because Celebration will be in that part of the world, either Orlando or Anaheim, either one. So, you know, you'll do it a couple or 3 times, and you'll notice changes. Yeah, it's not we both go to Vegas. Every time you go to Vegas, that casino wasn't there, but where's the Stardust gone?
Yeah.
You know, it's that sort of thing. So things will tweak and change. But yeah, you got to think, I would imagine Disney will be thinking already, like they do. They always think 7 years down the road. So they're probably thinking, right, 2026. Third film of the new trilogy's come out. Maybe let's shake it up then, and let's close the park for 6 months, or over the winter they should it, you know, September to February, and you know what I mean, and just refresh.
Absolutely, and I think I am getting a sense from the way the interviews are going. I think there's kind of two schools of thought. There's people who are saying this has potential for a lot more.
Yeah.
There's also sort of like a team that are kind of breathing a sigh of relief to say, we've done it. We've opened it. You know, let's take a period of reflection before we start thinking about what's next.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes, again, from a business viewpoint, you kind of want people with different focuses on that.
Of course.
But you know, if you're looking at the sort of the current team, I think they're kind of still quite rightly going, is this working? Is this what it is? And you know, it absolutely undoubtedly is.
Yeah. Well, we are still in the stag period, aren't we?
Yeah. We're still. It's still eyes on, observing.
Yeah.
Like I say, I think it won't be until August, until I go, that they're starting to get a real feel for how operations will work proper.
Yeah.
And they're obviously smartening up, because you're seeing little tweaks as to the way they're operating things.
Yeah.
I have to say, again, I'm sort of shout out to say how good they are. They handled the day one crowds amazingly well.
Yeah.
Because
there was a lot of social media about that.
There was. The crowds looked huge. But no one was complaining about it being chaos. It was quite the opposite. They said, yeah, there's a lot of people here, but it's all being handled very, very well.
Yeah.
So fair play to them for that, because it's normally day one's the day you get it wrong.
Yeah.
Day two's all right. But day one's the day, and they nailed it. So that, as with all these things, when it goes well, people don't notice. And it definitely should be noticed. This went really, really well.
Yeah.
I think the other thing I want to say is they've got little sort of shows that go on there.
Yeah.
And that's probably the bit that gives me mixed emotions.
Yes.
So you've got like Kylo Ren comes out of the new TIE, and there's a little bit of a scene about him tracking down the Resistance, and it kind of looks all right, but it looks a bit like a show.
Yeah.
But the kids will love it.
Oh yeah.
But then I've seen other photos where characters have been interacting in the park, and it has been, again, I say Secret Cinema, it's had that feel to it.
Yeah.
So they've had, I think it's Faye, I keep getting her name wrong, Faye, who's the Resistance person there.
Yeah.
She's like recruiting kids to spy on the First Order.
Yeah.
And that looks just awesome. That to me is what it's all about, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wonder if over time, my concern is, because it's Disney, they like the shows.
Yes.
So
it's part of their DNA, isn't it?
So my concern is they'll say the shows are the important bit.
Yeah.
The immersive bit is awesome.
Well, it's like you say, Disney Parade, 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
It's like it's set in the time for a Disney day, isn't it?
But again, we have to remember that's what your average tourist wants.
Of course.
Your average tourist, right? So what? And again, I'm kind of going to go to the Disney versus the Star Wars fan. Here,
yes.
Right. If you're paying thousands of dollars to go to a theme park, you don't want to walk out of a theme park and someone say to you, "Did you see the Kylo Ren show?"
Yeah.
And they go, "What?"
Yeah.
And because it's all immersive, they wouldn't be advertising this is happening.
No.
Right? You wouldn't walk out and go, "I didn't know there was that happening."
Yeah.
And my kids love Kylo Ren or whatever.
Yeah.
How can I pay thousands of dollars and they not advertise the show?
Yeah.
Now, the Star Wars people like us would be saying, "Oh, well, if you put a board up that says at 12:00 Kylo Ren's going to turn up, well, that takes you completely out of the immersiveness." So I don't think they can win.
No.
And I do think you have to always remember it's predominantly about people on holiday visiting theme parks.
Yes.
So I'm kind of, like I say, I'll put my grumpy Star Wars hat on every now and again and go, it's not fully immersive, but it's sort of about bringing tourists in and people having a good time. And if I was there with my kids and they didn't care about the immersive thing, although I will challenge, they love secret cinema, and they really didn't want to go. No. And they came out liking it,
blown away,
like you wouldn't believe. So they can absolutely enjoy it. But I think, like I say, you look at your average tourist maker, you want to spend your money, you want to get everything out of it.
Yeah.
Well, there's things you've got to do to make sure that happens. You've got to advertise when shows are. You've got to have staged performances.
Well, just watching the videos, I mean, just basic things, and it's fire regs. Fire Marshal don't give a monkeys about it being in the universe or not. So you've got an exit sign. It's an exit, you know.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast, isn't it?
And if you can't park your brain a little bit and say, this is as good as it's going to get.
Yeah.
It's like, and let's put it this, we've got a Star Wars theme park.
Yeah.
It's
I thought that was going to happen 5 years ago.
We should not be complaining that there's bits in there I wouldn't do. Because I've got 2 Star Wars theme parks with a third on its way.
Yeah.
What a time to be alive, Mark.
I know. Well, I know we're going to talk more about Galaxy's Edge as the months move on, and you're there for D23, so we'll certainly be getting hearing more from you about that then.
Yep.
I'm there in December in Anaheim for the premiere, fingers crossed. So, we've got plenty more Galaxy's Edge stuff coming. Everybody that's been there, let us know what you think. If you want to write in or social media, anything, just let us know what your thoughts are. But for now, Martin, thank you so much for inviting me onto your floor, cross-legged, with pins and needles as I did. And we'll speak again soon.
Thank you.
Unbelievably, Dave, we've reached the end of episode 20 of Making Tracks. It's been awesome. I feel like I've learned things that I never knew before. Couldn't tell you what, but it'll come out in the wash, I'm sure. So, if you are a fan of Fantha Tracks, and hopefully if you listen to this, you are, then there's loads and loads of places that you can find us. You can find us on all the social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr. You'll find us on YouTube, where Fantha Tracks TV is prospering, as it has been for many, many months now. We're not as young as we used to be, are we, as a site? We're getting older now, which is nice.
Coming up to 2.
The terrible 2s. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Android. You can listen to us on Spotify, SoundCloud, TuneIn, iHeartRadio and Spreaker. And you'll also, and I think this is cool, considering I don't own a smart speaker, but you can find us on smart speakers like Amazon Alexa, Apple HomePod, Google Home and Sonos. You can also find us in your car on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, on your gaming consoles, on your television. You can find us, as I've just said, on Fantha Tracks TV. You can get the Fantha Tracks app. Everybody go to fanthatracks.com now and download the app. You can get it for any phone that you want. Believe me, it's on all of them. And we're on there on the Fantha Tracks app. And you can also go to our landing page on Fantha Tracks Radio, and it will tell you all the information you need, where to find us, when, download, give us 5 stars. We need all the stars we can get, even though, of course, our biggest star, Dave, is you. So thank you for being my co-host once again. We'll speak very soon, and I promise I'm not going to drink any more of this funny water because I think it's affected my performance.
See, you're still at it, aren't you?
So until next time, Dave, au revoir. Clear skies, as they say on whatever planet they say it on.
Clear skies, bright suns. I could do with some bright sun, please. May the force be with you. Ha!
No one's ever said that before.